isn't happening to you. Life indeed is responding to you in everything that you do. Life is your call. Every area of your life is indeed your call. You are the true creator of your life. You're the writer of your life story. You are what your life will be by what you give out. And that's exactly what I am going to do. Giving you every possible reason to be motivated and surprise lives beautifully. And if you are here for that, you may just have found the right corner at the right pit stop, because this is where you learn much more and everything about inner story. Hi, my name is Madhusudan, and I welcome you to the Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories, brought to you by ET Edge for endless stories of life. So, guess get us started already and jump into welcoming our guest for today. Somebody who has seen Bangalore built, somebody who's a proud Bangalorean, somebody who has mastered the trade of much more in what he does. I'm very happy and delighted to welcome here this time CEO, Credit B, angel investor, co-founder at FinTech Association of Consumer Empowerment FACE, Mr. Madhusudan E with us right here at Cutting Chai Story. Mr. Madhu, I'm so delighted and happy to have you here. First question first. It's connecting Bangalore here. I'm from Bangalore. You're from Bangalore. So let's start about your life in Bangalore, the early days. Where were you born in Bangalore? Which school did you go to? And how was those early days of Bangalore in the 80s and 90s?
Thanks, Mithun, and it's a pretty interesting question, right? So very much, I'm a Bangalorean, and yeah, family-wise, so dad moved from Vellore. We are basically from Vellore, our hometown. He moved for his MBBS. He used to be a surgeon working for the state government service and in multiple hospitals within Bangalore. Victoria Hospital was one where he retired from, but we were four siblings, so there was a brother and two sisters, and that just doesn't stop over there for me. There was enough families which were knitted together, so I had about I don't know, man, like roughly about like 40 cousin brothers and sisters included. I don't know, it would cross a half century there. So you would imagine that kind of a family, right? So with a lot of cousins, brothers, and of course school friends and everything. So I think that was my kind of life, how I got started kind of going to schools. I mean, in the schools, if you go there, there will be at least like 10 of my cousins in each of the classes. So anything that happens to in the school kind of gets out to my house, even before even a note from a teacher or anything like that. So this is a discussion at the families that this what happened and whatnot. So that was how this childhood was. But kind of looking back, it also gets me nostalgic now. But kind of looking back over there, I guess that was a pretty important thing in life, that you get to know the people. So the people come with a lot of different characters. They have their own, positive vibes and negative vibes and whatnot. There are people with a lot of skill set, but they come with certain reservations. Then you need to accommodate them. So if I look at today, what I am a guy who believes a lot in teams. Okay, so team development and the team productivity has kind of helped me kind of come to a level where today I am. And that if I have to somewhere kind of map it to my childhood or upbringing, I think that was it. So it was always like we used to have like multiple cricket teams,
True.
among like 40 guys of cousins and this one, the friends also joining in. There were like 4 or 5 cricket teams that used to kind of happen parallelly, and trying to map that and then kind of lead that somewhere here or there. I think the team building and the essence of team was very natural for me.
True. True.
Accommodating people, trying to understand them a little bit, was pretty natural, that came in, and that was pretty helpful for me in even my professional or even the startup. See, the initial part of startup is entirely about teams.
True.
Right? So you need to get those. You don't have funding. You are out of job. You yourself are kind of constrained from funds. All that you require is that co-founding set and the early teams on how they have to believe in a leader, how they have to believe in that vision, work together, and make the company success. that is entirely of that particular team, right? So once the
True.
funding comes in, there's a lot of money there. There's a lot of economical angle. You start hiring people, then there's more money coming in, and that goes on. So the initial part of that thing, one of the key essence, apart from all those leadership skill, vision, goals, whatever you have, one of the key things is to kind of have those team believe in each other and then work together till we attain that initial taste of success. That came pretty natural in terms of building such teams. So I totally owe it to all my cousins over there, so where they helped in kind of or shaping my personality towards building such teams. Yeah.
It's so interesting how you connected the thread from being, your experience as a child, growing up with so many cousins, a township of cousins. Let's
Yeah.
say it that way. Not a team, but township of cousins. And how you learned every bit of it back there to dwell into the practices that you're doing in the current time. And I think, as they say rightly, everything starts from the early age. So I am going to just ask you one more question here. You spoke about your cousins, but I want to talk to you about your parents. Your dad moved from Vellore to here, and so what did you learn from your parents? Any key learning from your parents back in school days?
Oh, wow. So both mom, dad were employed, right? So they were both were in the medical services, very much in the government service. So they had this tight schedules of 7 to 6 in the evening or 5 in the evening. A doctor's job is generally like that. So that was one of the key things on how diligent they were in terms of what they were doing, right? So today the work lives are certainly relaxed in terms of your timing, let's say, right? I'm not talking about the pressure and stuff like that, but with respect to the diligence in terms of the time of attendance and stuff like that was they had a very pretty disciplined life, right? So I think that was one part. The although dad was doctor was a profession where you suddenly get some kind of an automatic respect in those days. These days, it is also combined with a lot of money, but that times it was like no money but respect kind of a thing. I
True,
mean,
true.
teachers and doctors were of that kind of a profession in 80s and 90s at least, right? So early part of
Right.
90s was the kind of profession. What that meant was dad wanted to have wanted all of us to have kind of a very disciplined lifestyles in terms of how we grow up. Although it was always distracted with my friends and cousins and whatnot, but one thing what got me to that was early part of my there was one more bit which kind of shaped my personality. Probably I'll talk about that. Was I got into scout, right? So
Oh,
I was a president scout where I was awarded this Rashtrapati Puraskar from the then president, Mr. K.R. Narayanan,
so
right? So
wonderful.
yeah, I'll tell you the reason why I picked up scouting, right? So the scouting was picked up because that will give you off time from the school. You can get
Okay.
out because you can always tell in the school that you can take a couple of periods out for some scouting activities, and that was the reason. But out of that, what was there was dad advised me a lot in terms of have fun, but have a definitive goals in life. So he
Absolutely.
was he was worried that probably I'm kind of getting out of the regular curriculum that you go to school, come back, study for hours, go back, score exams, and then score ranks in exams, and that was a ideal student life what was imagined during those times,
True.
which has changed a lot for good these days. But when I'm taking time off for all these activities somewhere, so he was an influencer at that time, asking me to kind of get certain focus in whatever I'm trying to do. So having a focus in scout, probably I was looking for that was the highest award what one could win at that time. So I was pretty focused on going towards that, although there was a lot of fun, but getting to that particular president award was not an easy
It was
ride.
a big thing. It was a big thing.
Yeah, so I think those things that came in, pitched wherever he had to kind of help me out, but gave me enough of freedom, so in trying out multiple things, off curricular activities and whatnot. Not just that, right? So being a doctor by himself, always your life in India at that time was only about two professions. Either
Right.
you become a
Right.
doctor or an engineer. Otherwise you are just everything else. Uh,
True.
that
True.
is that's a very wrong way, right? So that's not the idea of life, or that's not the idea of profession what one has to get into. But that was what it was. And then when I showed my inclination towards engineering, although I got both medical and let's say engineering seat after my entrance exams and whatsoever, he was very, although his personal interest was very much aligned to making me a doctor, because he also owns a small nursing home set up in Bangalore, and he just wanted me to kind of take up that and then move on. But when I showed my interest towards engineering, I think he was very accommodative in terms of just leaving away with all his dreams about what he has built about me, but kind of supporting me on many aspects, right? So in that ways, dad supported a lot of my interest at various parts of my life, and somehow I didn't let him down, so
That's
in that way
wonderful.
it worked very well for both of us.
That's so wonderful. You covered many of my questions in your answer right now. But the point is, Dad did play the key influencer back
Yeah.
in school, and you know how he led, having parents who are doctors. And I'm sure back of your mind there must have been a thought, what, parents are doctors. I'm sure they will ask me to become a doctor. But then when you chose to take up engineering back in the days, you had a free hand, and today you are making your parents proud about what you have done right now. So I'm going to skip and jump from the college, because you already given me the college download in terms of how easy was it to move from medical to engineering. But let me talk about the first job. How was the first job? How did you get the first job? And what was it like?
No, it was a dream, yeah. As in, like, I mean, again, I don't know how much of those opportunities are there today, but those days, so I still remember one conversation what we used to have in the final year of our engineering. Like, there was, hey, I'm sorry if my internet is fine. Am I audible yet? Right?
Absolutely
Hello?
audible.
Sure, sure. Sorry for that. Right. So I still remember this conversation at final year of our engineering, where somebody asked me, one of my friend asked me that, what do you expect out of this entire recruitments that are happening? Or what is your bare minimum ask for, what you want as a salary package, or how much you want? For me, I was getting an allowance of 1,000 rupees per month during those days from my
Wow.
father. And
Wow.
that was a good enough money for me to kind of have my weekends, and then the entire month, apart from those mess bills and everything, right? The allowance was like about 1,000 bucks. So putting that into perspective, I was like, yeah, 10,000 mil gaya to my life is done, right? 10,000 per month, that was a decent salary for Bangalore. Agar itna mil gaya to mera izzat bach gaya, right? So this was the idea. Now, first job I land, there was this company called Huawei Technologies, right? So they were based in Leela Palace. Okay. So
Okay.
now they are based in Leela Palace. Sound Huawei, which was very tough to this one pronounce. I get in a job there, and then I go there, and then within 1 month I had to travel to Shanghai,
Right.
right? So for a deputation. Now
True.
there, with all those, the allowance for your travel and everything, suddenly I'm drawing about a lakh and a half kind of a monthly
Wow.
salary, where the 10,000 was an expectation. Now you have like a 1.5 lakhs. I mean, I was just blown,
Right.
right? So looking at that kind of money, I think that was my introduction to the job, which was very, very like a dream like thing come
True.
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 But having said that, right? So yeah, it got some time to sink down and everything. I mean, it was also a time when many people used to, kind of ask my folks that where am I working. So they used to always say that, yaar, Huawei bolne mein thoda mushkil ragta hai, because nobody recognizes the name. So let me say that you are working at Leela Palace. So a lot of guys were confused with Leela Palace mein jaake matlab kar kya raha hai bol ke. Yeah. So that was kind of a fun and kind of a dream come true in terms of what it was. But the job was very much towards, let's say, the engineering developer and whatnot. That was when I realized, probably, my role as a engineer may not be the one what I wanted to achieve in life. That I realized after during my job, and I was more oriented towards business. Right.
True.
So I think I picked up the roles post my engineering initial jobs towards business. That led me to kind of have this role as a overseas e-commerce department head, where I was managing about like 9 countries just before I
Wow.
left my job to kind of come to the startup world. And that life was something, again, looking back, it was such a great life, in the sense that I had to literally leave on my suitcase, had to keep traveling to countries in Southeast Asia, Russia, Middle East, then in the Latin America. So while that was a job, but what I really liked about it was like I get to travel a lot and meet a lot of different kind of people.
True.
So each travel was like about like a month or two, and you get to meet different culture, different people. Of course, you take time off to kind of do your tour, the tour and trips and whatnot. But apart from this fun time, I think that gave me a perspective of how the businesses are done across the globe, and how people. I mean, at the end of the day, people are people, right? So I think you start connecting to that, the core of what is the how people behave, on how their senses are, but cultures may be different,
Absolutely.
and help me kind of accommodate a lot of foreign people in my business journeys, or during my startup. So that's how the career was shaped up for me.
So wonderful. So wonderful. I like the whole journey of the first job working at Leela Palace. Let's just stick to the word Leela Palace because even I do not know how to pronounce that word. And then going to Shanghai and understanding. Now, that's exactly what we're talking about, the evolution, the understanding pre-hand to what the market needs it. You did that way early in your career, and that's exactly what made you shift gear, quit your job, start something new, travel to about 9 different countries, move from Asian countries, South Asian countries to Middle East to Russia, Latin America, meeting people, learning much more from them, and then even becoming stronger as who you are. Now, in your conversation, I heard a little lingoes of Hindi. Now, I want to quickly ask you, where or which college did you get your engineering degree from?
Yeah, I think that the Hindi is actually from that college, right? So it is
Yeah,
NIT
I figured
Surat,
that.
right? So I went to NIT Surathkal.
Ah,
Back then it was REC Surathkal. So the good part of that college is that they have certain way of getting the people, right? So they have a certain reservation for each state.
true.
So what you end up in REC or NITK is that you get people from all the states,
Right.
and then these I mean, if you look at the location of Surathkal, I think you have to stay only in hostel. I mean, apart from that, there's only a beach.
Yeah.
Right? So I think you should have an island where you have to put up your room, or you better be in a
Right.
hostel. So I guess there was like more than half the crowd was Hindi speaking crowd, which came from different parts of the state. Even that was a culture remix. Right, so I would call it as a culture cocktail there, in these colleges, living in those hostels. I guess that's where I picked up my Hindi. And a funny
I
part,
figured it.
yeah, and a funny part today is like, a lot of these news channels invite me for a panel discussions and whatnot,
In Hindi.
on the live TVs, and I get a lot of invitation from the Hindi channels, right? So that's kind of little fun that, so that's kind of a little fun, because there are very few the South Indian entrepreneurs would speak in such lingo, which looks pretty natural for a as it sounds for a North Indian or so. I was grateful for that college where I picked up those languages. Yeah.
That's exactly why I asked you the question. I want to stop myself and get into the lingo कि हाँ ये कहाँ से निकल रहा है क्या ये कॉलेज से होगा of course कॉलेज से होगा क्योंकि you learn so many languages in college and exactly so जो अगले आधे भाग होने वाले हैं इस शो के वो होने वाले हैं हिंदी में क्योंकि हमारे जो मधुसूदन सर हैं वो हिंदी में वार्तालाप करने के लिए तैयार हैं
Don't put me in a position, man. Don't put me in a position.
My next question is a very interesting question. It's about downhill to uphill. Now, very rarely you find the careers of people who are always trading higher and higher, and there is nothing to lose. But of course, most of them have that downhill. How they pick things up, they buckle up, and then they rise again. So I want to talk about one such story in your career, your life, where you thought, what am I really doing? Is it all going haywire or is that something I need to do? And you looked into it and then you took it on your own and then you made sure everything was just about coming into places. So this one story, because to all our viewers who are watching, they want to know Mr. Madhusudan has just not seen the good. I'm sure he's seen the bad as well. So bad to good, that bit on career life, if you could please tell us.
Yeah, sure. See, I guess the best one was, or the most recent one was how I started startup, right? So
True.
it was in 2016. Now, all my life, I've been working in telecom software industry. Of course, my roles were different. I was a developer. I was a business guy doing e-commerce and stuff like that, but never ever did anything related to finance.
True.
Right. So today, what I run a company is a leading digital lending company, where probably we have more than 25 lakh active borrowers.
Wow.
Right. So who are borrowed from the company. Now that's a different, altogether a different line of business, right? So 2016, what basically when I moved around to multiple countries and everything, so what I saw was the entire digitization of how the fintechs were getting digitized, right? So how the banking system was getting digitized by these startups. When I started looking at the comparable within India, those were the times on e-commerce like Flipkart or Amazon. If you'd go, the
True.
only option of trying to buy a product on an installment or a EMI basis was just a credit card. Apart
True.
from credit card, there was no other financial solutions. What probably Bajaj Finance had at the offline markets,
Right.
those solutions were never there. And the entire credit card penetration in India was roughly just about less than 2% during that time. So
True.
98% of the Indian market was not really kind of able to shop online with the financial solutions, right? So that was the state of India. So I came down. I was super impressed with the white space that what we had to do it. Always had this of always the technology was the core in my mind. So digitizing the entire lending and then financial services was something what was a major drive for me to kind of look at this startup. Now I take this idea and now I start. Now I have never met any other guys from banking. Of course, I had few friends who were working in banks and other fields, but apart from that, professionally never dealt with. So to convince my idea to a VC or even the lender, because ultimately there is a lender required to lend to the borrower, right? So I
True.
started visiting banks and many NBFCs during those days in Mumbai, right? So because most of these guys are in Mumbai, I don't know, I would have knocked doors of 40, 50 people who have blindly rejected this,
Wow.
saying that you're gone totally out of your mind in trying to kind of lend. See, the lending was very, very conservative thought, right? So what they thought was, if we see a person in front of us, we give money and then they deceive us, they don't pay back. Now you have come out with an idea that there's a mobile app which kind of lends to the people, and then there's nobody has seen them, they are not interacted with the other person. They would be very casual about a mobile app and they would never pay you back, and all money is going for bust here. So why are you roaming around this kind of a stupid idea around all the guys? So you have to take a lot of rejections, and that doesn't come easy. So you have convinced your parents, your wife, your all your siblings that out of all your comfort life, what you had, where I used to pick flights in every other time and then move around the globe. I just want to leave all that. I start this business. Now, after that, now you start meeting all your partners or your business partners or your equity investors and everything, and everybody is laughing at you, right? So literally, they're
Right.
saying that you have gone nuts. So taking that feedback and still believing in yourself is a larger downside that you have to keep going, right? So you need to keep
Absolutely.
going with that one. So that was one thing. The second thing what helped me a lot there was the team which had come along with me. Of course, my co-founders, right? We believed, right? So for whatever reason, we believed in each other, and we believed in that idea. And all those downsides, and I think there was always you should have those team or those co-founders which has to be kind of ready to take such rejections, such disappointments, and still keep going with that idea. Generally, this happens when you start the startup and you're looking for that initial break and you want to kind of launch it. After that, it's a different story. So after that, there are different challenges and different milestones, but this is something like where you yourself have to fight with your own thoughts that you're not a failure. You need to kind of keep going on. And then we got the first and I went relentlessly. I mean, imagine this, right? Wearing a suit, having this a great leather bag and roaming around in an auto
Okay.
in Mumbai, from building to building, because you don't want you to afford for a Ola or Uber. That's less
Right.
costly here, and you're all sweaty. Going from Bangalore over there, and still you have to go and pitch and take a rejection and come back. So that's how it went on, right? So, but of course, Once we started putting up a prototype and showcasing some of the early success, then there was no limit of investors who came in and then start funding us. And probably today, so the same bankers are all friends who rejected, and then we even sit out and laugh at that on any business meetings or dinners or something of that sort. I think that was a very big downside where where we came back, and that generally happens with most of the founders who probably would start with their journey at the initial stages. Yeah.
This is so wonderful, so wonderful. I just want to put this in a code for us to get motivated. That uh, trifles make perfection. Perfection is no trifle.
Yeah.
And what Mr. Madhusudan did with his partner is that kept trying, kept trying, kept trying, kept trying. Never gave up. And I think that's when even the energy said, no, this man is not going to give up. Let's start giving him now. And the example he's here with us right now is one of the most sought after person, angel investor and fintech, of course, who knows the way out. So I'm going to get into a very quick question now, straightforward answers in one line. Your hobbies.
I read books. I read books. Right. So I would love that I get more time to kind of read more of them. But I do catch up with the book. I mean, the best pastime for me was during the flights. I take a lot of flights to Mumbai or Delhi. So you get a decent 1 hour, 2 hours break from your mobile phone. No WhatsApp, nothing. So that's my catching up time with the books. Yeah.
So wonderful. Work-life balance.
Work-life balance. So good that my wife is not next to me, but let me be candid. I think it's settling down, right? So startup journeys are so it's now settling down a little in a better way. But the initial part of the journey, it's screwed up, man. I mean, for any founder, if he says that from the start of the startup journey, work-life balance was well taken care, probably somewhere is lying. So the initial part of the journey is kind of like more towards work and life, less of life, but it gets settles down over the time, and we also learn along the way.
All right, one last question before I let you into the next round. What is that you have missed out in your professional journey, and any regrets if you have?
Wow, regret. Probably I should have started early, right? So I think there was always this. It was not that the thought. I never had the thought of like starting on my own and then experimenting myself into business by myself and whatnot. So, but I think I started late. I don't know why I kept delaying and delaying, but I would always suggest somebody that start early. It's okay to fail. There's nothing wrong about it. The
True.
earlier you fail, the better you become. So start early. So I think probably I started a little late. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one last question. Cutting chai. How was the experience here at the Cutting Chai Stories?
Oh, this was wonderful, right? So this is wonderful. This is probably the first ever interview where I've been so candid, casual, and made me nostalgic. Otherwise, most of the other interviews what I give is on the business. The angle and the thoughts are very different. It's competitive. It's about how do you project yourself, how do you project your company. So the various other thoughts which are running, but this made me very comfortable and helped me be candid about the questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sudan. That indeed was very good. We loved your answer. Now we're getting into the second part of Cutting Chai Story, a little tweak in what you've seen to what's coming up now. Now, along with Mr. Madhusudan, we're going to have another guest joining us right now and be a part of the next set of conversation. So please welcome Director Product Marketing Lenovo, Mr. Vikram Mule with us right now, who is joining in conversation, Cutting Chai Stories right now. Hello and welcome to Cutting Chai Stories. I seem and understand you're somewhere in Maldives and having a good time, at least with the virtual experience. You're on mute, Vikram, before you could scream out loudly.
Yeah, I was unable to unmute. I guess the rights were different. So I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, yes. So tell me, how does it feel to be there wherever you are, but not in Maldives, but have a background with Maldives?
So I was telling, I had a good opportunity to catch up with Mr. Madhusudan just before the event started. And I was telling I've been in Pune, my hometown, since the
Okay.
lockdown. So in a way, the lockdown has been kind on me, being able to spend time with family. So that's the good part.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more to that. I think what COVID has done is it's given back life to most of the people.
That's right.
So this next round is a very interesting round. We find the common trait between the two gentlemen who are right now with us. So let's start the first one, and it will go from Madhusudan sir to Vikram sir. Do I have to really call sir, or should I just state first now?
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm Madhu. I don't know. By putting that sir somewhere, you're making us feel old, right? So it's not bad.
Exactly, and I'm feeling very young. I don't want to feel young. Let's go straight to names then. Okay,
Okay.
what are the main challenges faced by your organization in IT asset management life cycle? In 3 points, Madhu, let's get this up.
No, I guess it's been it's a moving challenges. It's the challenges which were there 5 years back is not the challenges today. Today the challenges are probably kind of driven by COVID, right? So there's a work from home is become a norm, which was never a concept earlier, at least in India, right? So the market is too hot because there's a lot of opportunities for the engineers. There's a quest from many. The companies are larger today. The product companies have grown really a lot. So therefore, what has become more important is there's an increased importance for the companies, organizations to consider, understand the needs of the employees, peoples, the IT engineers to accommodate them and retain them. Right. So there is an increased focus on how to develop such conducive environments within the companies so that they can always keep the employees motivated and retain them for a longer time. I think that focus has shifted what it was, or to at a very highest degree today, what it was prior to COVID, or even like 4 or 5 years back. I think that is one of the key things, and it's pretty important and a good thing that is happening from an employee's perspective, that the organizations are increasingly thinking about them. I think that's one part of it. The second part of it is the changing technologies, right? So I think the new technologies that are getting introduced, the new tools that get introduced. I think the frequency at which these technologies and the tools are changing has become even more on a higher degree. So therefore, it also brings to the IT folks to keep themselves upgraded on a regular basis. It's no more that I work good on what the technologies I'm working today, but I don't care about what's the new technologies are coming. I think that strategy is not going to work. So one has to keep themselves upgraded on a pretty regular basis. I guess that's the second shift. What I've seen in terms of the degree of changes of the technologies, what's happening today. I think that's the second thing. I wouldn't think of the third thing. Probably if I get it, I'll tell you. But I'll happy to kind of hear from Vikram on his thoughts around that.
Yes, Vikram, what is your take on it?
Yeah, so I mean, couldn't agree more with Madhusudan. Pretty much something similar, which we see on different side. I mean, yeah, we both. I mean, he is in a way a consumer of IT. We are in a way guys who are enabling our customers. But absolutely, I mean, COVID has been a big game changer, clearly, and the challenges which are created. But I think what has happened is a lot of organizations like yours also who have been nimble enough to adopt IT, and the ability of organizations like us to provide that. I mean, it could be more number of connectivity options, more number of security options to make work from home feasible. I think that's been one of the biggest changes. I think scenarios like this were sort of a dream scenario post pre-Jan or Feb 2020. Now they're becoming pretty much essential. Work cannot happen without that. Remote working, teleconferencing, and VPNs and stuff like that. I think that's one big change which has happened. A few other things which you are seeing with respect to startups, especially, is that security and manageability of devices is becoming critical, because, as you rightly said, a very high number of employees coming in, many of them working remotely. So how do you ensure data security and how do you ensure manageability of devices? That's one challenge which I've seen. And other thing, I mean, I know you are in an NBFC company, so I don't know how much you relate to it. But challenge, I mean, in terms of sourcing of funds, we have seen has been a challenge for quite a lot of people, and especially on IT, because you get funds for your core businesses, but how do you get more for IT? Those are the two additional points which I would say beyond what Madhusudan said.
Right. So these are the two very key. All right. So this is one common connection that I have to ask question. I want to start with Vikram here. Vikram, what are the challenges faced by the industry in the year 2021? Is there any innovation that we see, and how to get prepared for the upcoming years?
Yeah, so I think a very apt question in today's day. I mean, we started the call also talking about working from home and people logging from different places. I think COVID has been the big game changer, clearly. And that has disrupted how organizations work, how IT is deployed, how it is consumed. And Madhusudan also was talking about how they have been nimble enough to uh, adapt, for example, to a large number of employees getting recruited, deploying IT assets to them. So I think COVID, to sum up quickly, COVID, yes, has been one of the bigger game changers. The allied thing to that is very, very rapid deployment of IT assets, both on the enterprise side in terms of data centers or in terms of devices. Because of the way employee sizes have been growing. Many businesses have seen huge amount of growth due to COVID. And how do you adapt to that has been the question. And third, again, related thing to a combination of both. COVID has forced more people to work from home as well as a high number of people. So what that has meant is, how do you ensure that your employees are productive? How do you ensure their devices are secure and better manageable? So these are the things from an IT perspective. One last point which I would leave with, that's not necessarily an IT, but yes, IT deployment does get impacted, is the working capital management. What we have seen is not just startups, but many organizations looking for OPEX model because of the kind of payment options which offers, or maybe just to cut down the IT capex which an organization would want to spend on deploying assets.
Thank you, Vikram. Same question to you, Madhu. Big challenges were faced in the year 2021. So what's your take on it? And going forward, what do you think will the result be? And how prepared will the industry be for the coming years?
No, see, I guess it all started from 2020, right? So 2020 was where the infection and fatalities were low, but the confusion and business impacts were very high with respect to how the lockdowns were there and how people also were kind of took this as, without knowing what will be the outcome of the entire the effect of this COVID during the wave one. Wave two, on the other hand, somehow the business impacts were not as high as the wave one impact, but the virality or the fatalities of people were way higher, right? So I think that was the two key differences. And while what has happened with that is there are multiple segments of the industry, right? So there's one tech industry, and there is I would put it as a total non-tech industry. Right. So the non-tech industry somehow adapted to or accepted to come back to office or come back to the roads and streets much, much earlier than the tech industry. Right. So somewhere there is a very good disparity about that. I think most of the people or most of the other organizations would agree on that the tech continues to kind of work from home. Non-tech is kind of back to office. And that's how the current scenario has been. Now, what I would see as and within the tech, there is a kind of multiple different options have evolved, right? So there's certain companies which has totally taken it as work from home as an continuing option. There's certain companies which have made it like 2 days a week kind of office, 3 days work from home kind of a scenario. In certain other companies, there are like 40-50% of the people are in office. The 40-50% are kind of in working from home from the remote locations. Who are in Bangalore, more or less, they have come back to office. So a lot of dynamics has come in, right? So what has happened with this is 2021 has led the organizations to learn to work in different models. It's not just simple work in office or work from home. It's a mix of or all the possible combinations of work in office, work from home, remote working is the combinations what has come out. So what I see is that the companies are largely kind of prepared to take if there is, of course, for God forbid, there's no wave 3 or Omicron kind of just dies out. But if there is a kind of impact of wave 3 or Omicron is going to come out, I wouldn't see that will catch the organizations off guard. They are way prepared. They have gone through these drills. They're way prepared to adapt to any scenario, be it be total work from home or quasi work from home, or trying to bring back the people back to office with incentives and whatsoever. I see that there's a lot of preparedness that has come in, and the complete confusion state of mind what led in the managements has kind of put to rest. So I would say that 22 would be kind of is not going to take anybody with the surprise with the COVID impacts on the work, the setups on how the companies would like to do. Yeah.
I totally agree with Madhu, your point and what Vikram said right now. Indeed, the organizations are set they're well prepared, there is no confusion, and they're ready for anything that will come in the coming years. With that, I will take a back seat and I will let Mr. Vikram take it forward from here in terms of what more does he have in mind to put across Mr. Madhu, and let's see what does the question unveil with time.